So you're getting into Starfield, and like me, there's many things about it that you love, but your bag is often full too quickly, it can be a bit tedious navigating the menus, you don't seem to have enough money, and getting from A to B to C and then back to A again can all feel a bit long-winded. Well, fear not. I have spent the last few days collating my top 16 tips to help you take your Starfield experience from great to amazing. I'd also like to thank Bethesda for sponsoring this video. The last section in particular is very important, so grab a notepad and some snacks and let's dive straight into section 1, all about managing your money and your loot. Tip number 1 is to have your scanner out almost all of the time so that you don't miss any loot. Your scanner will identify everything that you can interact with, and this way you don't have to waste loads of time hovering over every possible object that might be lootable. The only exception to this is whenever you see something that looks even vaguely like a door or a container. You cannot open things when you have the scanner up, so make sure that you are putting it away occasionally so that you're not missing a juicy loot crate or a side room that may hold some valuable items. You can also use the cutter in scan mode, and the cutter is insanely powerful when used correctly. We'll discuss it later though. As for tip number 2, now that you can clearly see all the loot and you're comfortable with using your scanner, number 2 is to stop picking everything up. Just because it's there doesn't mean it needs to be looted. Almost every item that goes in the miscellaneous category, almost every piece of junk is exactly that. Now, early game, and I'm talking very, very early game, you may think, oh, but this 200 credit bauble and this 400 credit statuette will start to add up. No, they do not. Yes, it might afford you a gun or a piece of armor once you've spent an hour picking up everything in this room, but trust me, it is really not worth it. There are far, far better ways to make money, and we will be talking about that in just a minute, so hold your horses. I honestly can't stress this point enough. When you are talking about weapons that cost 20,000 credits and ships that cost over 250,000 credits, there is literally no point picking up them foam cups and them leftover utensils, and trust me, I am right there with you. I spent the first 10 hours of my game looting everything I possibly could, filling up my inventory again and again and again just to make pennies. It is really not worth it. Of course, you will still want to check everything because the likes of Digipacks, credit sticks, storage crates, ammo, notes, etc., they're all still very valuable for their own individual reasons. And especially Digipacks you want to be very careful with, because they go in the miscellaneous category, but they are your lockpicks. Do not accidentally sell them. I have done that far too many times. Anyway, we'll cover awesome ways to make money later on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and move into tip number 3. Tip number 3 is twofold. Firstly, you want to always make sure you're traveling with a companion. First and foremost, obviously, they're going to help you out in combat. 2 bodies to shoot at are better than 1. But we'll talk about combat later. The primary reason for this tip specifically is because when your inventory gets full, you can give all your loot to your companion. Double the inventory space, baby. Now, their inventories are as limited as yours, but this does double your inventory space at the very least. Just make sure that once you finish wrapping up the mission you're currently on, you do go back and grab all the loot you've given them, or you won't be able to use it or sell it. And that transitions us very perfectly into tip number 4, because you may be thinking, well, if I'm just going to give all my loot to my companion and then take it back from them anyway and take on all of that extra load, what was the point of giving it to them in the first place? Well, simply put, when you are overburdened, you will burn through your oxygen, aka your stamina, even just by walking around. So to do this the most efficiently, when you get back to your ship, take everything back off your companion and then go and chuck it in your ship's hold so that you're not overloaded. Your starting ship doesn't have a particularly big hold, but it's much better than nothing. It's around 3 times your own inventory space. However, later on, you can buy ships with literally thousands of kilos worth of hold space. But the more important reason I'm telling you to do this is because when you want to use anything for crafting or for research, or even when you want to sell your haul to vendors, you can remotely access your ship's hold and interact with everything in there as if it was in your own inventory. So all of this loot that you know you want to sell or you want to do something with, but it's very heavy and you don't want to carry it around with you, chuck it in the hold, and then the next time you need to craft or research or sell, you can just switch the tab from your own bag to your ship's hold. Job done. You can now use that as well. This quality of life improvement blew my mind. It's probably one of the most important tips on this list. It helps you to haul so much more off a planet and make so much more money way more efficiently, and of course stops you from running around overburdened and burning out your oxygen constantly. The next money-oriented tip is what to do with contraband. If you ever find a piece of contraband, you will know because it has this little yellow icon on it. Contraband are usually the most valuable items in the game and can sell for thousands of credits per unit. The only problem is, as it is contraband, every time you enter the vicinity of a controlled planet, you, your companions, and your ship's hold will be scanned for contraband. If any is found, it will land you with a hefty fine and lots of jail time. Not to mention the fact you will lose all of this loot anyway. Be not afraid though, there is a fantastically easy way to get around this. I'm sure there are more places like this later on in the game, but a very quick and easy system you want to go to is Wolf. It is just here, very close to the starting systems of Alpha Centauri and Sol. Fast travel to Wolf and then come here to the Den. The Den is a very rare exception to most other systems in that it does have a trade authority shop, and you also don't get scanned when you enter the system. And the reason this is so perfect is because apart from seeking out pirates and other low-life individuals, the Trade Authority are the only shop who are willing to buy your contraband off you. So this, coupled with the fact that they are operating in the Den, which doesn't have a scan search, is absolutely perfect for your looting and selling needs. And if you have an absolute ton of loot and the vendor runs out of money, just go and sit on one of the nearby chairs or benches and wait for 24 to 48 hours. The vendor's stock and money will replenish, and now you can carry on selling your loot. And finally, and perhaps most importantly for the money-making section, is a location you can go to grab some quick and easy contraband. So for the contraband from the starting system of Alpha Centauri, you want to head right to Olympus. Come to this planet, and as you are flying around it, you will see this structure here, the Almagest. It is here that we are going to get some very juicy contraband. Grab your companion of choice, just not Vasco, and I will talk you through why not later on in the video. And now start progressing through and start blasting all of the spaces in this station. Once you've cleared out the majority of them, roughly in the middle of the structure, come into this room here, and once you've grabbed all the loot that you want to grab, including this permanent reduction to the fuel needed for a grav jump, interact with the manager's computer and memorize the jackpot combination. I believe it's the same in every playthrough, so that'll be 12, 19, 36, 5. Now head out of the room and go straight down behind this giant bank vault looking door. Come up through this hatch and you will see a computer on your left, and this is the jackpot back-end station. Now you can enter in 12, 19, 36, 5 and be rewarded with the winnings. But more importantly, just behind is this contraband cache. Grab everything from the cache and the mech components just next to it. And once you've had your fun exploring the rest of this station, this is the point where you can take it all back to the Den and make a load of money. Now that we've covered all the money making tips, let's have a look at a few tips revolving around companions and combat. Tip 7 is very quick and straightforward. Very early on in the story, you will get to the lodge and you will meet the other members of Constellation. At this point, Vasco will actually automatically stop being your companion and will leave your party. Make sure you remember to pick him back up again, as he can be very valuable. Not only does he have some really good abilities, he's also great in combat and very tanky, and more importantly, he actually calls the character by your name. So it's really cool to have him say your name every so often. But moving into tip number 8, there is an even better reason that you want to make sure you pick Vasco up. As long as he is assigned to the spaceship that you are currently traveling on, you can choose a different companion to have follow you around, but Vasco will still always wait for you outside of your ship. So even though he won't follow you around directly, if there are enemies in the vicinity, he will actively engage them. So not only can you speak to him as if he were following you around, you now have an additional combat companion. So if you manage to lead the enemies back to your spaceship, or if they just happen to spawn near your spaceship, you now have use of 2 whole companions' inventories and 2 whole companions to back you up in every fight. For this reason, you never want him following you around. Always choose someone else because he's always going to be outside to help and support you anyway. Tip number 9 is a fantastic option for your first companion. Now, this may be the Elden Ring bias inside me, but she's literally called Marika. I'm sure it's not pronounced Marika, but it definitely is. You can literally have Marika as a companion in Starfield. For real though, the main reason you want to grab her is because she is insanely powerful in early game combat situations. I am only level 5 or 6 when I'm looting the Almagest, and some of the enemies are up to level 14, and she is just helping me wreck them all. She has a very powerful combat shotgun and she knows how to use it, and she also helps on the ship's crew because of her other abilities. And then you can add to that the fact that when you pick her up from Viewpoint, it is very easy to persuade her to only want half the credits she was initially asking for when you are hiring her, meaning she's a really cheap companion to grab as well. Now let's discuss a few other things that'll help you out whilst you're adventuring. For tip number 10, the cutter is much more than just an accompanying tool to your scanner that will help you mine ore. It is actually a ridiculously powerful close-range weapon. Something it took me an embarrassing amount of time to find out is that if you keep the right mouse button held down, or whatever button it is on your controller, you will keep it fully charged at all times, and even though its ammo will drain quicker, it will do stupid amounts of damage and melt even powerful enemies in a second. Add on top of this the fact that it has unlimited ammo, and as long as you're good at using cover and getting close to enemies, this can melt through so many, even high-level enemies. There are, of course, far better weapons as the game progresses, but as this is beginner tips, this is such a great weapon that you do not want to sleep on. Tip 11 is all about lockpicking. The first thing to know is that each pin can fit multiple holes in multiple layers, so it's best to line up all the pins on one layer before completing any and then moving on to the next layer. And just because a series of pins fits doesn't mean it does necessarily go there. So make sure you try your best to check all available options, because it could fit multiple layers and it's up to you to figure out which combination to use them in. As you level up your lockpicking skill, which I strongly advise that you do as it's one of the most important skills in the game, you will unlock the ability to identify which pins fit, and the layers on which they fit will be highlighted in blue. This is fantastic, especially when you get up to expert locks and beyond, because then quite a few pins start becoming false positives, and you'll see when you click a particular pin combination, not a single layer will be highlighted in blue. That means these don't actually fit anywhere, so you can completely disregard them. Every Digilock is a mini puzzle, and at first I really didn't like them because, I'm not gonna lie, I don't enjoy puzzling. But the more I've gotten used to them, the more I've learned to love them, and now I'm always really excited to find and pick a master lock to see what's behind the door or what's in the crate.
And bingo, let's see what we got.
The next tip is to remind you to fast travel everywhere, and I mean everywhere. You can fast travel from planet to planet, from system to system. You can even fast travel from district to district within the city that you're in. Fast traveling everywhere will significantly reduce the amount of time you spend traveling around, because for me, that was one of the only tedious things in this game before I found out this tip. For instance, if you're in the middle of a random planet, provided you're not overloaded, you can literally open up your map and instantly teleport to like the commercial or the trade district on Jemison. There's no need to board your ship, there's no need to undock, there's no need to fly to the planet. It will literally just teleport you there in an instant. Cutting down on all these unnecessary cutscenes and all of this unnecessary travel time will significantly improve your enjoyment with this game, trust me. Always make sure you know what your fast travel options are before you bother walking anywhere, because then you can spend more time doing the fun stuff. Tip 13 is all about persuasion. Obviously, as with lockpicking, the more you level up your persuasion skill, the easier persuasion events will become. But even if you only have base level persuasion, let me show you a great tip that will help you succeed most persuasion attempts. There is a tutorial screen on this, but it doesn't explain it as specifically as I am about to show you. As you see here, as I'm trying to get the pirate captain Brogan to not kill me and loot my ship, I only have one turn left to persuade him, and I still need at least 2 more successful persuasion blocks. So I could go for the risky orange option and try and hit both of them at once. But did you know that if you're on your last persuasion attempt and you hit a successful check, it will give you another free turn? And now for the bit that it doesn't explain to you specifically. That isn't just once, that is endless. Unfortunately, I'm gutted I didn't record the footage, but I had one the other day that needed 8 successful persuasion notches. And I literally just hit 8 green +1s in a row, and it just kept giving me free turn after free turn after free turn. So my advice is to start off the persuasion by trying to go for some of the harder ones that will give you a really big chunk of the bar. But if you've only got 1 turn left, just keep trying to roll green check after green check, and most of the time you will still manage to persuade successfully. And now that we've done that, let's just murder them all and grab their loot anyway. They're only pirates at the end of the day. Tip number 14 is to speak to everyone, explore the lore, and do everything. You will find so many hidden quests this way. This is a bit of an extreme way to do it, because I do suggest you go after the main storyline, because there are endless procedurally generated side quests. But as one example, I was level 8 before I even stepped off New Atlantis. There are so many quests and so many engaging NPCs and so many things you want to do and find out just as you're traveling around the world and meeting all these new people. There is an endless cast of fully fleshed out voice-acted characters, all with completely unique storylines. And with only a few exceptions, pretty much every single person that has a name, if you go and speak to them, either they will give you a quest, or you will find out they are involved in a quest later down the line. So every time you see someone with a name, go and speak to them. 50% of the time, you're going to walk away with another quest, which can be a bit daunting. I think my quest log's got like 40 quests in it at the moment. But it means if you've been blitzing through the main storyline and it's getting a bit too hard for you, or if you just want to pump the brakes and chill out for a bit, you can scroll through your quest log, read what you've picked up from people, and just pick what sounds most interesting to you at the time. If you want to do some fighting, go and do some bounty missions, or you can just stroll around cities, soaking in the atmosphere and solving problems for people. As we come to the penultimate tip, let me show you another skill which I strongly advise you pump points into as soon as possible, and that is weightlifting. Weightlifting initially isn't fantastic. It will increase your carry capacity just ever so slightly. However, by the time you get it to level 4 and max it out, you will nearly double your carry capacity for just 4 skill points. And what's even better than that, as you probably already know, to unlock the higher levels of skills, you have to complete a challenge. But the challenge for weightlifting is literally just run around loads whilst you have more than a 75% equip load. So another tip within a tip for you. Did you know when you're sprinting, even if you are overloaded, you will take damage, but you cannot physically die? So after I've done a really big planet mission and I am far too overloaded, I just sprint all the way back to the ship, and then I just run laps around the ship until I have got my weightlifting to the next level, because you cannot die. Your health will drop significantly low, you will be running out of oxygen and gasping for breath constantly throughout this exercise, but it's a very quick and easy way to complete that challenge and unlock the next level of weightlifting, so that you can pick up heavier and heavier items and therefore make money quicker. And the final tip for this video is to experiment with different ways to complete quests. especially if you aren't worried with twisting the rules, should we say. There's one quest here where I was supposed to buy an item from this woman, but it was just in the next room over, so I just snuck over there, waited until the guard was looking the other way, and yoink, that's mine now. And if you want to take this one step further, did you know that if you kill someone, you will get a huge bounty on your head? However, if you kill everyone in view, that bounty will be lifted. And this tree scientist here, yes, I am calling him a tree scientist because I've forgotten the actual name for them, has some research that we really, really need. And he is trying to extort us before he will agree to give it to us. So let's just kill him, and also the guard that noticed me do this. Oh look, my bounty's gone. Now occasionally you will be left with a tiny little bit of bounty if you do opt to complete any missions in this way, but next to pretty much every mission board will be a self-service bounty clearing machine that you can go and interact with and just pay a couple of 100 credits to be bounty free again. So now every time someone tries to extort you for a quest item you need, just have a look around and count how many people are watching, and now you've just added another available option to your ways to complete quests. Anyway, my friends, that is my 16 that probably turned out to be more like 20 tips for Starfield. I am adoring this game, so please let me know if you'd like more guides for this game, and if so, what you would like me to create content on. And as always, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.